Okay, welcome back to Peter's plot. It's the middle of April and I'm doing an extra video because there's loads going on the veg plot. We've had the spell of warm weather and it's made a massive difference to everything. And these broad beans, which I sowed late last year, incredibly they survived that shocking cold long winter that we've had, and they're just starting to come back to life now with this fresh growth on the top. And this garlic over here, I mean, I'd expect these to be a bit more chunky but at this time of year. I'd expect the broad beans to be up here, but so a little bit slow, but importantly everything's still alive and it's growing. Now's the time we want to start looking for perennial weeds. So these are weeds that live in the soil all year round, and as soon as the warm weather comes they'll start growing. This is creeping buttercup, particularly difficult one I have to deal with. I've also got ground elder, which is a problem for me, and couch grass, probably the worst. But the thing is, get them out now, because otherwise they'll spread through your veg beds, particularly if they're very fertile, and they'll start ripping all the nutrients out of the soil and starving your veg of the goodness that they need. But this is quite a nice surprise over here. This is some peppermint. Didn't know it was there, but you know, it's a delicious little herb. Fabulous for tea, of course, but brilliant in salads or with chili and garlic. You know, absolutely delicious stuff. So I'm going to dig that up and I'm going to put that in a pot with some fresh soil, and I'll get a long crop of peppermint right through the year. Fantastic. Now let's get some potatoes in. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I'm just laying out the potatoes where I'm going to plant them, and I'm laying them out with 12 inches between them this way. Always useful to use a trowel, because this is it's about a foot or 12 inches long, so a really handy measuring device. You know, we're not performing brain surgery here, so we don't have to be super precise, but you know, about that distance apart that way, and then 2 feet this way. And then when I plant them, all I'm going to do, just measure that. That's about right. All I'm going to do is just dig a little hole about 6 inches deep, maybe a little more, and pop the potato in with the end with the most shoots pointing upwards. And I'll just do that for the whole bed. Simple as that. So before I put these potatoes in, I dug the soil through because there were still some tubers in there from dahlias that I grew in here last year, believe it or not. And what I was really pleased to find were loads of worms. And that's a really good sign, because it means the soil is really fertile. But nevertheless, I think it's probably a good idea to add a little bit of this organic fertilizer. It's probably not that essential, but just to be on the safe side, because we are putting these in a little bit later than I normally would, and I want them to grow well and quickly. So I'm just going to put that on the top. I mean, if you were being really particular about this, you'd actually dig a trench, put the fertilizer in the bottom, potatoes on top. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rake that in as a little top dressing and let the rain carry that goodness down to the roots of those potatoes. Guarantee me a nice big crop. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at the salad leaves, which I sowed way back in March. Now, of course, growth here has been really held back by the cold weather. Even with this fleece on the top, I'm not expecting great things when I get underneath. But let's have a look, see what we got. Okay, small plants as predicted, but it's not a disaster. Looks like the mustard's actually done the best. Normally I find that Mabuna is a sort of one of the most quick growing, but you know, this isn't looking too bad. And interestingly, when you feel that, you can feel that ground is quite warm underneath that fleece. So it's slow, but it's not bad news. Okay, so what I need to do now is start thinning some of these seedlings out. Now, what I want to do is try and put out the weaker or the smaller plants, so that I'm leaving about 1 inch between the main ones. Ultimately, I want to leave about 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches between each plant when they're fully grown. But I don't want to pull them all out in one go, because if slugs gets in, I could end up losing half of my row. So I'm going to leave them with about sort of 1 inch between them, and that makes sure that the plants that I'm keeping get lots of light and can grow on really nicely over the next few weeks. So thinning out seems a bit brutal, but you've got to do it. Okay, so now I've thinned everything out, I'm going to get the fleece back on and keep that there for another 2 or 3 weeks probably, because we're still getting some cold nights. Let's keep those seedlings nice and warm. Okay, so we're in the greenhouse now, and we're going to have a look at the seeds that I sowed just 2 weeks ago. Beetroot, lettuce and courgettes. And the beetroot is doing fantastically well. These seedlings are a good inch, 2 inches long in some cases. Lettuce, a little bit slow out of the blocks, but I'm pretty confident it's going to get there. And courgettes doing absolutely fantastic as well. So we'll just look at that. Beautiful healthy leaves coming through there. Okay, so the next job is to thin these out, because I only want to have about 3 seedlings in each one of these Jiffy 7s. Then I'm going to plant them out probably in sort of 2 or 3 weeks time, so I end up with little clusters of 3 plants, 3 nice juicy roots together. I've got these in the greenhouse, but of course a lot of you are going to have them at home inside. Now the key thing to remember is to try and keep the seedlings in a place which gets lots of natural light. Turn the tray around every few days so you don't get the plants leaning towards the sun. Obviously a greenhouse or conservatory is best, but you should be fine on the windowsill. Just keep turning the tray around. Okay, now April's a great time to get carrots in. It was too cold a couple of weeks ago, but now the soil's warmed up. It's perfect. Very, very easy to sow. I'm just going to create 2 little drills, stone, get rid of that. 2 little drills like that, foot apart, using the trowel to measure. It's a great thing about raised beds actually, because you've got a perpendicular edge there, it's very easy to get your rows nice and straight, which ultimately means your veg look great when they're growing. So, these seeds, and all you do is just take a little pinch and then just sprinkle them in, aiming for about a seed every ½ inch or so. No need to be too precise. And then all you need to do is just pinch in the soil like that. Very, very easy. And firm it down so that those seeds are sitting in a nice moist pocket of soil. Okay, well that's the sowing done. One last thing you want to think about when you're growing carrots is they're very attractive to slugs and snails. So it's worth getting down a few organic slug pellets once you start seeing some seedlings coming up, because you can lose a whole lot very, very quickly just in a couple of nights if you're unlucky. So some organic slug pellets down on there. And that's it for this week. So join me in a couple of weeks when I'll be sowing some more seeds, but also importantly seeing how all this stuff is getting on now we've got some warm weather. See you then.